A properly structured criminal organization with an alleged leader, Andre Blackman Bryan, meant to ensure his safety, top-tier members and foot soldiers who carried out various attacks after being instructed. On Monday, the prosecution's witness in the One Don Klansman trial told the court that he and another gang member on trial, Carl Beach, would oftentimes attend meetings held by the People's National Party. The witness says a female strapped with a gun would always accompany them to these political meetings. Meanwhile, the witness revealed that the reputed gang leader Andre Blackman Bryan showed him the gun he used to kill former chairman of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, Douglas Chambers, while bragging that he put 2 big holes in his head. That gun, the witness claimed, had to be sold because Bryan did not want it to remain in the parish of St. Catherine. Chambers was shot dead in 2008 by gunmen in Spanish Town. According to the witness, Chambers was disrupting the collection of extortion money. Bryan was charged for the murder but was found not guilty in 2016. In 2019, reputed leader of the Klansman gang, Tesha Miller, was convicted in connection to the murder. Additionally, gang meetings would allegedly be held once Bryan had an issue. The witness recalled a meeting when Blackman instructed him to browse the net for statistics on crime island-wide. At times, the witness says Clarendon and Montego Bay had more murders and shooting incidents than Spanish Town. He says Bryan saw this as an issue, as he thought Spanish Town should be in the lead. The alleged leader would then have the group brainstorm to come up with a strategy to increase the number of shootings in Spanish Town. The witness detailed how 3 of the defendants stabbed a man to death and buried him after. He further gave evidence against another defendant, claiming he wanted to drink blood from the skull of a man who was already buried.
The witness was overcome with emotion when the prosecution started asking him about one of the accused this morning. He revealed that the accused was his best friend from childhood and they remained close as adults. The witness started hanging his head low and wiping tears from his eyes. As he did so, soft mutters could be heard among some of the accused saying, "I'ma cry and I'ma tell lie. Stop cry." He told the court he knew the accused man's parents, siblings, and other relatives. He says they would visit each other's house very often. According to the witness, they went to primary and high school together and were often in the same classes. He says as adults and members of the gang, they remained close. But the witness says they rarely spoke about criminality nor the dealings of the gang. Instead, the witness says the accused would, quote, "always a beg my money and say my signature mine and him broke." As the prosecution asked the witness to point out the accused in the court, the witness hung his head low. He hesitantly identified the man he said was his childhood friend.
The latest witness in the Klansman gang trial was detailing how he acquired a gun from a fellow gang member that he would secretly turn over to police when he dropped a bombshell that took even attorneys in the courtroom off guard. Leading up to the revelation, the witness said, "This person I'm about to tell you about only had my, Biggs, and Blackman's number." He then said that dancehall artist Vybz Kartel ordered 3 hits over the phone, including a double murder in Waterford and an attempted shooting of a fellow artist in Hellshire. The witness also said that he and another gangster, Squeezy Eye, were told to make sure Kartel's music video for Buck Up Inna that was being shot in McKinley was done well. The link between entertainment and music was evident as testimonies from the witness reveals that the Klansman One Don faction's base was outfitted with a recording studio. The witness said that he once accompanied Blackman and defendant Crooks, who was pointed out as Fabian Johnson, to a studio in Dunrobin owned by iOctane. He said the gangsters would record music while iOctane would do the recording. The witness shared in court how he turned over 2 guns to the police by working with them in an undercover operation. In 2019, a police officer under the guise of the witness's uncle was able to infiltrate the gang. Instructed by Rel, identified in court as Ruel Taylor, the witness was to pick up $150,000 from Crooks and Muma in Denhamtown. After collecting the money, the witness picked up the police officer. While en route to their final destination in Jones Avenue, they met with a team from the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, on the road leading to Spanish Town. The undercover officer then drove to Jones Avenue, where Rel was waiting with a gun in a scandal bag and Papa, another of the accused, with ammunition in a soda bottle. It was here that the officer was introduced as the witness's uncle. At the time, it was thought that the witness was wanted by police, so the gangsters commissioned the uncle to take care of the witness. To avoid suspicion, the witness asked Blackman if he could keep the gun to kill someone, to which he agreed. Before the witness parted ways with the officer, he gave him the gun and ammunition. The witness was also able to hand over a malfunctioning rifle to the officer that he received after telling Blackman that he would deliver it to the defendant Dwayne Solomon, also known as Chemist, who fixed and sold guns.
At one point, the reputed gang leader allegedly became furious with his foot soldiers. This after 3 failed attempts to murder a man. According to the prosecution's witness, Bryan accused the men of being idle as they knew where the target was, yet still, the man identified as Dooley was still breathing. Brian and 3 of the accused men are being tried for the murder of Dooley that was committed in August 2017. Meanwhile, the witness spoke of an incident when a gang member was shot and injured and being cared for at his home. The witness says he was instructed by Brian to pick up pills at a nurse's house in Spanish Town for the injured member. According to the prosecution's witness, the Wandon gang had a rifle they referred to as the God. Now, some members of the criminal organization allegedly had personal guns, but when those guns were needed by the alleged gang leader Andre Blackman Bryan, they had to comply with the request. All except one gang member who the witness says would never give out his gun. Additionally, the witness gave evidence against one of the defendant he calls Chemist. The chemist, he says, is tasked with fixing the guns. It is a criminal trial. That's according to Chief Justice Brian Sykes, who on Thursday seemingly got irritated and a bit wary of the prosecution's prolonged questions to the witness. Chief Justice Sykes says there seems to be no end in sight to some of the questions being posed, and he sees no connection to the counts on the indictment. The former gang member, now turned Crown witness, made mention of an incident where 2 men allegedly from Denham Town in Kingston were killed by 2 of the defendants. The witness testified that he once carried Andre Bryan's mother to collect extortion money in Spanish Town. The money from extortion, the witness says, was used to buy guns and ammunition. However, the witness says he once told Blackman to use the money to construct his recording studio instead of purchasing weapons.
The witness says he recorded the conversation he had with the gangsters on the phone, saved them, and sent them via WhatsApp to the undercover policeman. He says 3 cell phones were given to him by the policeman for this purpose, and he returned them to the officer with the audio recordings of the conversation. He says he also pointed out the gangsters to the officer and showed him where some of them lived. He says he also took the officer to the areas where the gangsters had murdered several people, including a bus driver in the bus park, a man in a place called Cool Cat Lane, and to the crime scene of a triple murder the gangsters had committed. According to the witness, the gangsters collected extortion money from several people, including owners of Chinese wholesales, vendors, bus and taxi drivers. He says he transported some of the gangsters when they went to collect those monies. The witness also related how he took the mother of the alleged Wandon gang leader Andre Blackman Bryan to collect extortion money at least one time. He says persons who failed to pay up would lose their lives. He also says Bryan murdered a man in cold blood at the man's home in an area he calls Fisheries in Twickenham Park. The witness says Bryan had declared he was going to look for Bubba Sparks, a man he says was a top shooter for Tesha Miller and, quote, Sheldon Fishery. He says all the gangsters on that mission were armed with a firearm. He, the witness, had a crate of handmade explosives he calls bottle boom. He says the gangsters used glass bottles, nails, and gasoline to make those weapons. He says this was about midnight. He says one of the gangsters called CJ kicked in the door to a 1-bedroom wooden house where a man and a woman were in bed. He says the woman was screaming. According to the witness, Bryan took the gun from CJ and shot the man. He says the woman pleaded for her life, saying she was not from the area. But he says CJ took back the gun from Bryan and shot the woman before they threw the bomb inside the house, setting it ablaze. The witness says the gangsters kicked in the doors to 2 more houses before they headed back to Jones Avenue. But he says the occupants of those houses were elderly people and Bryan gave them the orders not to harm them.